Hello, welcome back into the new year. This is Archetype, sponsored by Lenovo, and I hope you guys all had a wonderful holiday and a good new year. It's a nice cold one, it's been raining. So welcome back. It's good to be back. Excited to get back into some more. I mean, I've been drawing, but excited to get back into the streaming side of doing it. So let's talk about what we're going to be doing now. So if you've been joining these streams, and if you haven't, you can totally check out the other character, but we're going to be starting again on a new character. So last time we did a archetype called the Joker, or the / trickster character. We did this fun little fox alchemist type character. So this month we're going to try to do the archetype the Brute. I figured it would be a good dynamic duo or type or kind of archetype that's kind of different from what we did before. It's kind of opposing. Our last character kind of had to use his wits and use his smarts to get by and do different things, whereas this one maybe we'll try more like brute strength type stuff and see what we can come up with. So again, we're going to do the same genre or world. So we kind of gave our last character kind of like some steampunk vibes within the realm of fantasy. So we're going to try to keep true to that. We also did an anthropomorphic animal, so I also kind of going to keep true to that too. We'll continue the anthro animal world for now, just because I think it would be more fun. Yeah, let's get into it. So this is kind of the world that we've created with our last character. And thinking about the Brute, I'm kind of, what I like to do usually is kind of make notes to myself as to, what we did before and what's kind of the opposing thing of that now. So, last time we did fox, so that's like a predator type animal, right? He was green. Not that this really matters. We can kind of change colors if we need to, but again, I like to write down stuff first before I start drawing anything, just to start getting my brain going. So if we have that type of stuff, maybe this time we'll be looking into a prey animal, right? What's maybe like an opposite or an enemy or something that would be kind of fun for the fox to be either friends or enemies with. It doesn't really matter at this point. We can figure that stuff out later. If he's a prey, what do fox prey on? They maybe like small rodents, which already in itself is kind of an interesting dichotomy with a brute character, a brute that's also a rodent, So you guys have some examples of rodents that we could do, right off the bat. I can think of like, rats or squirrels, right? I can spell squirrel. I draw. I don't type things. What else can we do? Rabbit. Rabbit's one. Could also come up with chipmunk. Chipmunk's kind of cute. Right, and so now we also know that this one uses its wits, right? He was thin and sleek. So maybe now we can use strength. Maybe kind of boxy. Right, so we can kind of start figuring out where our shape language is going to be and how that's all going to play into our design. So off the bat, I'm going to try to maybe come up with 3 interesting, unique silhouettes or designs for our rodent character. So I like to start small and simple with just kind of big shapes. So I kind of think it's funny to play with the idea that, we have a rodent that's maybe really buff and big in comparison to our fox character that we had last month. Keep it boxy. Also give the chat a hello If you guys are watching, say hi. If you guys don't say hi, it's just me talking to myself, and that makes me sad. Also, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm rocking a sweet dinosaur sweater that I got for Christmas. Super excited. It's adorable, my favorite thing ever. So shout out to dinosaurs. I love them, they're the best. The stream is live. I see that someone is here from Twitch. Hi from Twitch. He's got a cute little fluffy tail. And right now I'm not worried about costuming quite yet. I just want to find different ideas first as to what could be. Hello from YouTube. Nice to see you. Hi. Yay, there's some hellos. Thank you. Don't make me draw in the dark by myself. All right. Cool. So we have maybe some sort of big brute rodent character. Again, if we want to, we could easily try to turn these into other rodents. We can get into that later if we wanted to. I like the idea of this being like a little chipmunk, like scary buff chipmunk character. That's kind of fun. I don't know how often you get to see a buff chipmunk, so. I like the big ears, so we'll play with a rabbit, you know, what could a rabbit look like? Sometimes all I need is maybe like a head shape. That could be kind of interesting. I'm trying to think really boxy, just because our last character was more triangular. So a rabbit with a really big chin is pretty awesome. So trying to just keep things very shapely and boxy to kind of, again, make this feel like a different character than our last one. He definitely needs bigger ears. So when I'm first starting out an idea, I like to just keep loose sketches like this. Sometimes just doing a bust is enough. If I need to, I can, you know, kind of draw out an arrow and be like, oh, maybe he's like really boxy this way and he's got his crazy rabbit legs down below. This actually reminds me, a long time ago, I did in high school, I did a buff rabbit with a machine gun, or like with the Terminator style, like Arnold Schwarzenegger inspired. This is bringing back those memories. Good times. I'll see if I still have that. I don't know if I do. Big feet doesn't feel very good, so actually I'm going to give him smaller feet. I like the idea of our characters having really tiny, cute tails, you know, so give them a little cottontail or something like that. Could be fun. Now, this is a fantasy world and steampunky. If you guys can, you know, shout out in the chat about maybe what kind of occupation this character would have, or what kind of relationship is he going to have to our jokester, trickster type character, right? Are they friends? Are they enemies? Is one after the other? You know, and if our other character kind of causes mischief and mayhem, what would, you know, this character's kind of opposing role be? If you guys can think of any. You know, we're kind of thinking, you know, if you're thinking about like role-playing or D&D type stuff, we kind of already made like our mage type character. Maybe this can be kind of like our barbarian type character. So we can play with the idea of a buff character. Now, what if we don't play with the idea of a buff character? Because we are playing in the world of steampunk. So what if actually our character is really tiny, like a normal chipmunk? But he, you know, is inside like a big robot or something, like a big steampunk robot. It's got little controls. Oh yeah, he's gotta have the big puffy cheeks if he's gonna be a chipmunk. that's going to be that tiny. And again, normally probably what I would do too is I would, as I'm coming up with these ideas, is also I'll be Googling some reference. Right now I'm just, again, I want to get something down on the page, and then whatever comes later, if I go, okay, if I'm doing like a steampunk robot, then I can start looking up, you know, some more interesting robotic parts and things like that, and coming up with something more and more interesting. You can just start building upon the things that you find in your reference. But this first page is just going to be pages of ideation and just getting the idea of, oh, maybe it's a chipmunk that controls like this giant robot, or something like that. And it's got like a little fire furnace on the inside, right? Steampunky vibes. It's gonna give Bioshock vibes. Just put him in a Big Daddy and call it a day, right? Give him the big drill hand, right? Also, if there's an idea that you guys like more, tell me, so then we can pursue that one. Because otherwise I'm just going to go with whatever I like, which is fine. But the point of the chat is to let me know what you guys are thinking. Make this guy a little smaller. I tend to try to work small and then I end up working big. I don't know. I run out of so much room so quickly. I'm going to just kind of consolidate all this stuff and move this over. Small. I'm actually going to look up, because now I'm kind of curious. I kind of like our buff chipmunk friend. I'm going to look up what an executioner looks like. There's a question in the chat asking what tool am I using? Is it a graphic tablet? I'm using a iPad, and I'm just streaming through Zoom. But yeah, I'm just using iPad and Procreate. Hold on, I have to awkwardly type. Cool. Trying to find some. Cool executioner vibes. I don't know, I think the idea of a chipmunk with like a really big axe is fun. And again, I'll do something like this like first initial buff character, but then I'll say, okay, how can we push those shapes a little more? You know, to drive home that he's really big, we can make his head a lot smaller. See how we can kind of push his body a bit more. Really big arms. I still love the idea of tiny legs, though. Got it. Legs. And a little fuzzy chipmunk tail. So now I'm starting to kind of block out what would be, you know, a little bit more character. Looks like Dad Man. I'm just kind of scrolling through Pinterest as well to find some interesting inspiration for what an executioner type character could be. Maybe he's like a rogue mercenary that's hired out to try to track down this jokester type character. And play with a little rat character now. Maybe this is, you know, we did say barbarian-ish before, you know, so we're in the realm of fantasy, so maybe he is some sort of a nomadic mercenary or something like that. He's got a wolf skull on his belt. Specifically hunts wolf, or foxes, I mean. So if you guys are new to the stream, normally what I do the first time we're coming with a new character is I'll go into drawing, but then the next episodes will be in ZBrush, sculpting out the design. The design can change a decent amount in there. I always like to start in 2D though, because it's easier to iterate and kind of come up with shapes or ideas that I like. You know, and I'm not married to anything. None of these drawings are like super final or super good or anything like that. In ZBrush, it can kind of take a long time even just to get a block out going. So I find it easier to have an idea of a block out first before, you know, jumping into 3D. I just like to keep it kind of simple. And our character, you know, if it's fantasy, we could look up, I'm gonna look up some medieval armor. Maybe our character's armored, which is a fun idea, right? Because it's very different from what our other character was. So maybe this character is also slightly more hard surfacey, which we can play with. So I'm gonna look up some references to maybe some cool armor that this character could wear. So again, just exploring as many avenues first. We got Executioner, maybe he's like a nomadic, more barbarian S-type thing, which might feel a little too close to what we already did. So, you know, creating a character that I'm kind of liking my chipmunks the most of all these rodents so far. But by all means, tell me what you guys like too in the chat. I am watching and looking for questions. So maybe he's like noble, Our last character is maybe a bit more anti-hero, so maybe this character is more heroic and kind of make a lawful good character. Which I think I'm liking that idea more and more as I try to draw it out. Plus, why not give myself the challenge of, you know, doing some hard surfacing for you guys in ZBrush. Hello from Brazil. Which I'm saying that I'm complaining about hard surfacing ZBrush, but I actually do only hard surface in ZBrush, which most people think I'm probably crazy for. But I like just staying in one program. It makes it a lot easier for me as an artist. I mean, I still use Maya and I use Blender sometimes as well. But I do think just staying in one program helps me a lot, and it kind of keeps me in like the creative flow of creating characters and stuff. And I like how simple the hard surfacing tools are in ZBrush, so it kind of keeps me. It forces me to keep my models really simple and not go too crazy too quickly. Obviously, he has to have a giant sword. Obviously. I'm kind of liking this armored chipmunk idea. Let me know what you guys think. I think it'd be kind of fun. As I continue to look at some medieval reference and whatnot, I think we could really play with that. So again, once I have that kind of idea, I'll select the one that I kind of like, and I'll do a copy. I'll just paste it, and then I'll hide the rest because now we have an idea. So again, it's kind of like going on to the next stage of stuff. So now I have this, and now we're going to go for, you know, armor, right? Still brutish, but maybe he's more noble. And now we can try to play with different types of armor. And again, I'm keeping these drawings. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell, I guess, on screen. Oh, it did get really small, actually, on screen. Sorry about that, guys. Let me make this a little bigger for you guys. I can't make it super big, but I'll try to make it bigger. It's shrunk. I don't know why. There we go. So again, trying to block out really quickly proportions, and then I can get into kind of detailing out. I just like to plot where, you know, all that armor's good, or where his body's gonna be first, and then we can kind of start ideating on what kind of armor and stuff he'll have. And really bring out that fantasy vibe. Hi from Colombia. Hello back. Colombia, that's cool. Cool metal gauntlets. I always really do love making a lot of work for myself here with these characters for you guys. Like, yeah, let's do metal gauntlet with tons of moving parts. Trying to think about how I would break up, you know, what he's wearing. And what kind of shapes are we going to go for? A lot of this too is, you know, I'm looking at a reference and I'll actually copy the reference pretty spot on at first, just so I can start feeling out a shape language, and getting some ideas. And then as I get more and more comfortable with that subject matter that I'm drawing, that's when you can start to exaggerate and kind of like push out and come up with more interesting shapes and designs. But right now I'm just trying to block in, you know, is he gonna have 2 shoulder pads? I'm gonna play with that. Is he gonna have these little like skirts? He's gonna have like a little cloth maybe. It goes down the middle. Is he gonna be fully armored, or is he gonna have some armor with some clothing? You know, depending on what kind of armor we're looking at, it will definitely vary. I think we're gonna keep our chipmunk. I kind of feel like sculpting a chipmunk. It'll be fun. If you guys have ever read Redwall, kind of feeling Redwall vibes now, right, guys? Shout out to Redwall if you guys haven't read it. You should read it. Cool. So that's one, and then I can. If I'm liking the shapes or proportions of it, I can always just say, you know, copy, and then I'll paste it again, and I can move it over. And then I don't mind, you know, grabbing and pushing and pulling this stuff around. Now that I have a base, it's a little easier to play with stuff, and I don't mind erasing away. I'll go ahead and scroll my little reference and see if I can find some more interesting reference. Maybe he's got one big shoulder pad. You know, if he's a chipmunk, maybe he's from some sort of acorn clan. So maybe he'll have like an acorn symbol somewhere on his. Draw a better acorn than that, Ashley. Come on, you can do it. So again, I like playing a lot with trying to figure out, you know, what shapes. An acorn's a pretty interesting shape. If we keep it kind of blocky, you might be able to use it as a shape language. Right. So again, reverting back to, you know, what kind of consistency are we going to find? You know, maybe even his helmet, or not his helmet, his little pauldron kind of tapers right into kind of like a acorn shape. Doesn't have to be a perfect acorn shape, but I think as long as we're referencing maybe this type of shape up top, and then maybe like a thick border on top of things to really accentuate that it's like an acorn shape, might be fun to add to like our little chipmunk friend here. So adding, maybe it's like a gnarled edge or something like that, so it looks more like a shoulder pauldron turned acorn on one side. And really, all that means is a lot of stuff's going to taper into acornish shapes. It doesn't have to be everywhere, but I think keeping it subtle and keeping that type of stuff on it can kind of drive home some cool consistencies with our characters that we come up with. So again, I think for our trickster character, We made sure that, you know, he was very triangular in nature for a lot of things, but also on top of that, we made sure that there was a lot of alchemy runes and things because that's what he did. He was an alchemist. So just constantly trying to drive home, you know, what shapes can we play into there that will keep honing in on a certain design and feeling. So you can see how we first start out with something like very simple. And then as we continue kind of overlaying and going beyond it, we can find some stuff that's more interesting. Oh, his knee pads are definitely going to be acorn shaped. 100%. A lot of time I'll erase and redraw really quickly on top of things. It's just easier for me to kind of find some interesting shapes. This music's far more, well, I guess it's still kind of chill, but last time we had some pretty chill vibes. I don't hate this. This is good. Ooh, they're not on the same layer. I'm just going to move these down and over. Trying to find some more fun reference. Let's see. Pinterest is a pretty great place to find reference. I will see a lot of repeated images, but you know, what I love about Pinterest is, I think I've said it before, especially with this type of genre, you'll find tons of people who are LARPing, which is awesome because you can find tons of ideas and just shape variations and like what's cool and interesting and unique and fun. And yeah, I've just always really liked being able to see what other people are doing and be inspired by that. Not copying, just being inspired by. Move this over now. Maybe we can play with a more, maybe he's wearing just more clothes, like he's more clothy. Which isn't too hard to do, just add some folds in there. Some layers of the Dark Souls chipmunk. You have like a leather bracer on one side and then maybe an actual metal gauntlet on the other. I always am a big fan of, you know, asymmetry where you can find it. And then you can add textural interest. Maybe some pretty different looking characters. Maybe there's one that you guys are favoring more than another. Just let me know. I'm gonna play with this being more hard-edged, but still just kind of thickish. Again, putting in some work for myself by adding lots of belts and things, but that's okay. Why not? Cool, I think we got some interesting stuff. I kind of like the idea of this being, metal and protected. Maybe he uses it kind of like a shield, and then this one is going to be his, like, sword bracing hand. He'll definitely have to have his sheath on the back, for sure. It's like Trunks. Yeah. Anything to do Dragon Ball stuff. Cool. So I think I'm liking that one more. It's hard to tell exactly. Kind of like the idea of the metal one too, but I'll play with this clothy one, see where it goes. Because I'm trying to think, it might look too similar if he's got like a scarf type thing or some sort of shirt like that, then maybe it looks too much like our other character. We can always look at more reference and see, maybe there's something like a leather vest instead of a full-on armored chest plate. We could do something like that, so that way it feels a bit more organic plus hard surface. Our other character doesn't have really any hard surface except for his little pack, so I'm not too worried about them looking super similar or anything like that. And they do need to fit into the same world, so copy that. There we go. Probably a good time to flip. I always like to flip canvas. It's always really important to flip canvas. And then I like to use the liquefy tool to kind of pull out a better gesture sometimes before I start just kind of fixing some perspective stuff. And you can fix it now really easily because, again, I'm not married to this sketch or anything. So I'll probably be changing a lot on it, but trying to just find something that's a bit more dynamic, Maybe that one needs to come up a bit more. And you can turn it off and you can turn it off and then turn it back on. You can see the difference between the two. One's far more pushed and a little bit more dynamic. It just helps to, it's a really nice tool to use just to make sure that whatever you're drawing and you're really accentuating like all the good stuff about it. So I'm gonna lower the opacity on this. Maybe just to warm up a bit, I'm going to try to figure out maybe what his face looks like. So again, I'm going to go back to my chipmunks tab. I want to look at what shapes are there and what shapes I can push on. Oh my gosh, so cute. Ooh, they do eat a lot of peanuts and acorns. I really like the striping, so we can play with a lot of the striping and marking on him, so that should be really fun. kind of easily taper. And they have very nice little pointy ears, so I like the idea of giving him, again, those really tiny pointed ears. And they've got some really cool markings that go along their face. Try to keep maybe his face really short and blocky. Looking at what a nose of a chipmunk looks like. Try to keep it nice and blocky. Gotta give him the teeth. Maybe something like that. So I like to do these sketches just to try to figure out, try to feel out who the character is as well. Whether it means doing some facial expressions or something like that too. We've got these cool stripes that go along their eyes, so we'll definitely play with that in the poly paint when we bring them into 3D. But yeah, these are basically just like little road maps. And again, they're not supposed to be super awesome, finalized, finished drawings. We can turn them into that, but these are really just here for you, in your own process. You don't have to show them to anybody if you don't want to. I always think the process of these types of things are super fun and interesting to look at. Because when you look into stuff in the film industry, you'll realize how much of the iteration and actual ideation and cool design work comes from kind of the idea of drawing ugly and just getting something on the page, So it's really important to, one, not be super married to your drawings and let them kind of take shape, but also to just share them, I think I've said before on this stream that I was worried about, I don't really draw and stream at the same time. It's really weird for me still. Getting into 3D, I don't mind, but drawing is something that's more personal for me, so it's a little bit more, it's a little weird. But again, just trying to do what I tell you guys to do. Cute little noses, little tiny. I like these weird little upturned. This one's a bit more accurate to the fact that its eyes are more forward facing. This one kind of looks like, I know they're very similar, but this one looks a little bit more animal and less anthropomorphic, which our fox character has you know, a bit more human-ish elements. So we're gonna make sure that we keep hold to that. Cool. I'm gonna lower the opacity even more. And again, probably what I would do now as well is I would go and just do a bunch of chipmunk drawings, like actual chipmunk drawings first. So you can start feeling out some of those shapes and some of those ideas first before, you know, putting it on page. Because you want to know your subject first before, you know, being able to push it. You gotta know what shapes you can push first in order to come up with something kind of interesting. It's like Batman, but chipmunk. He's so upset. He's so angry. Let's see if I can give him an even bigger chin. Maybe that could be kind of interesting. I don't know. Again, a lot of this can change once we hit the ZBrush stage. I'm going to go ahead and also very lightly block out where his anatomy is, because I don't want it to get lost in here. So I'll very lightly find that body again. Just so that way when I look at it, I'm like, okay, is that really, really weird? Or is that, you know, making sense? I think so far, I think it's okay. I don't think we strayed too weirdly with the costuming. I kind of want to leave one hand not gloved because I really want to sculpt the chipmunk hand. They're super cute. So we'll see. I'm just fixing where stuff is too. Hopefully you guys can kind of see how lightly I'm drawing on top of this. Ooh, fuzzy little chipmunk hands that are going to be actually kind of big chipmunk hands. That'll be awesome. It's so weird. I don't know. I'm sure there's something that you guys, you know, when you look at a drawing or you look at a photo and you're like, oh man, I want to sculpt that, like the little nubbins on their feet. I just like, oh, I gotta sculpt it. I just get so excited. And I hope you find something like that, you know, when you look at reference. Stuff like that should be getting you excited because you're seeing like an interesting shape or something fun to play with. Down the line. I think looking at something that's fun or something to look forward to is only going to help you, you know, especially when you do this as a job. Yeah, see, his shoulder to me feels a little like the acorn's a little off. So we're gonna, again, not afraid to redraw. Not married to anything. But yeah, when you're in this industry long enough and you sit in ZBrush for a very long time every day, it's really important to find the things that are fun for you and something that keeps it interesting, something to look forward to. You know, that's different for everybody. For me, I always look forward to drawing like certain anatomy stuff. I always think it's really fun. I like sculpting folds. Folds are super fun. There's tons of things. You know, if you guys have a favorite thing you guys like to sculpt or whatever, let me know. Shout it out. So this hand, I think we'll keep somewhat armored. And again, I'm going to make sure that that outer shape kind of looks like an acorn. Will be easier to see from 3D. And that's another thing too, is again, I'm drawing this stuff for me. So I know what that is as of right now. Now later on, if I was doing, you know, some stuff for concept, I might have to point that out and be like, hey, this is what it actually looks like from this angle. It looks like an acorn. But I myself am very aware that it's going to be looking like an acorn, so I'm not gonna harp on details too much. I also want to try to finish a sketch for you guys while we're still streaming, which I think we can. I think we have plenty of time. We have like an hour. I love the idea of him still having adorable whiskers. I also like the idea of a montage of him younger, being like this tiny weak little chipmunk, and then you get like a workout montage and he turns into like Beast Chipmunk. Pretty great. Let me go back to my room. Gotta look at some gloves and things. YouTube and says it looks really cool. Sweet. That is the goal. Cool is the goal. Oh, I have a sneeze stuck on me. That's not fun. I'm just looking at some reference right now of some gauntlets. See how we can play with some fun shapes. Some cool ribbing and stuff in this corner. And also just looking at where it actually breaks up and stuff, so we can make sense of, you know, how many pieces. It seems like there's a cool little piece for the backhand, but then there's also, I kind of like this shape where it's this whole piece for the knuckles, which is cool. Good one too, we could add tiny chipmunk-esque acorns. Try to find some reference of some good old-fashioned medieval belts. Gotta love those medieval belts. Kind of like the idea of the belt not being straight across, but at like an angle. That's what most of these belts seem to do. You know, maybe later we can incorporate some bark or tree or something into them too, because most squirrels, I believe, like to hide in trees or maybe underground. There are ground squirrels. I could be a tree squirrel, or used to be. I don't know if he could actually go up into a tree anymore. He gave up that life. Can't climb trees. Can't hide acorns anymore. Actually, I don't know if you guys knew this, but this fact blew my mind the other day. Did you know that most trees that are planted, I forget the percent exactly, but most trees that are planted are actually trees are planted because of squirrels forgetting where they put their nuts. Because they don't remember where they hibernate and put their stuff for winter. I found that absolutely fascinating, and I think that's super, super cool. So, because squirrels are so forgetful and so crazy, we get a lot of trees. Which I think is a pretty awesome balance in nature. If you guys have animal facts, throw them my way. I'm a huge animal nerd. We can also look up different types of nuts, not just acorns. I guess if we wanted to be more accurate, they probably don't just eat acorns. They also, I see a lot of pictures of them eating peanuts, but that's, I think, because people are giving them peanuts so they can take pictures of them. It's not like peanuts in the wild, as you'd probably think. So. By the way, if you guys just want to look at really cool stuff and looking at how fully armored people actually maneuver and how tight-fitted armor really is and stuff, it's fascinating. There's a YouTube channel. I think it's the History Channel that shows off some really cool stuff. Ooh, some cool stuff. And again, this might change as I keep saying that, but it totally will. As I find reference that's like, ooh, this is really interesting, or oh, hey, look at this. I'm not afraid to go, oh, this is actually a better idea for a character, or this is more interesting, and adding it to our. Kind of sad that I don't get to draw chicknote feet, but I just think it'd be weird if he was barefoot. I'll draw chicknote feet on the side because I want to later. Maybe he's got some armored cladding on the side. I don't know what you would call that. I love looking up. I used to be very good at remembering all the names of the armor pieces because working at Legacy, we used to have to label stuff all the time, so it was just way easier to know the names of actual little small parts, just to help with naming conventions. We have a question from YouTube. The artworks I'm doing, is it for fun, for a company, or for my portfolio? It's for the stream. It's for you guys. I do it for you. If it turns into something that I can use as a portfolio piece later, then awesome. I'll definitely share these on my portfolio because my actual work is a lot more realistic because I sculpt aliens for Aliens Fireteam Elite at Coal Iron. So a lot of my portfolio right now would technically be aliens, a lot of aliens, which is cool. But yeah, very different from this. So a lot of this is for you guys, is for my personal work because I like doing stylized stuff. But at any point for Archetype, if you guys are like, Ashley, I'm tired of seeing stylized chipmunk characters, which, first of all, I don't know how that's possible, but if you guys are, we could, you know, dive into doing some more maybe like realistic creature design or something like that later on. But for me personally, I really like stylized work. So I like to keep it fun and for me for these streams. And because if I have fun, you guys have fun. Give him his leather bracer. You can see that I'm not sometimes following entirely what was underneath, and I'll hide the sketch eventually to start detailing out some other stuff. Oh my goodness, acorn buckles? Yes, please. Let's do it. But yeah, all this stuff is just for fun and just for the stream. And then later on, if I can take it to a final finish or something, I think it'd be really fun to actually take these two characters that we're doing, compose them together and do. I think it'd be nice to do like a game res mesh or something like that. I'm getting confused with my own. Where's my damn straps? There we go. Yeah, I think it'd be really cool to take them into a final like game poly finish. I like hand painting textures and stuff. I think that's super fun. So, you know, we can do something like that maybe later on. I don't know if you guys would really want to see the full pipeline or process, because it's not a fun one. Well, it's fun, but it's not very fun to watch is what I mean. But if you guys are down, I'll do it. It's fine. I think I've got enough where I can turn off this layer. Let's see what we got. Oh my goodness. Love chipmunk. So now this is where I can go in and erase and like clean up, you know, make sense of some stuff that maybe wasn't making sense before. Oh my goodness, his tail. We can't forget his tail, you guys. His cute little bushy tail. You know, maybe his plating can also look like leaves. There's tons of different ways we can kind of play with you know, what kind of motifs are we adding? What kind of shape languages? What kind of things are we putting into our character designs? It's going to give them a bit more fleshed out story, because this is called Archetype after all. So Archetype is, you know, it's a place to start, but all characters are usually far more complex than just the brute. There's a reason why they're a brute, or there's a reason why they're a trickster. There's reasons behind, you know, why a character is the way they are. So making sure that we're honing in on why that is. He might be just angry because he can never get rid of his buck teeth. It doesn't make him look as scary. Maybe we can give him a little snarl. We're doing pretty good on time, so I can probably color this guy in. What do you say? Would probably be a good idea too. This isn't feeling tight enough around him. Oops. So I double tap a lot on my Apple Pencil to go from eraser to pen. sometimes it doesn't do it, so then I start erasing, but it's actually me just going scribble, scribble, and I hit scribbles and stuff what I want. That's good. I think it'd be cool if his eyebrows actually went back into that, because chipmunks have these patterns that go into their, like up into their ears, so that would be fun to play with. So these patterns actually, his eyebrows turn into that pattern. And I'm just adding more stripes up top because it looks cool, right? Adds a bit more character. Let's see if I cut off his jaw, is that more interesting? I might like that head shape more. I don't know. See, you can easily play. That's what I like about drawing, is you can easily kind of play with, like, how short can you make the ears until it's too far. You know, maybe the buff big jaw isn't the way to go. Maybe it's a smaller jaw. He still looks tough because he still has, like, the thing that makes a brute character kind of look like a brute character, a big character look big, is usually just proportion of the head is small, hands are big, feet are usually pretty big. Proportion-wise, usually the upper body is bigger than the lower body, and then it's got usually, you can play with how that shapes vary. He ended up being a little more evened out, but even right now, if I wanted to, we could grab his lower half like this, and I'll do it just because I'll show you that I'm not afraid, and we can make it smaller. I can distort it back out a little bit. Right? And then we go, okay, is that good? Or do we like that? That. And I actually kind of like the smaller version, so we'll keep it. Right? So it's really easy to push and play with proportions and reminding myself, like, you know, some stuff might get a little lost or not as exaggerated as you wanted it to. There's also a tangent here that I must get rid of. There we go. So yeah, it's all about, you know, don't be afraid to cut your drawing up and kind of move stuff around, you know, and see if it works or looks a little better. You know, if I'm looking at his other arm right now, this arm seems a little long, so I can pull this up a bit and rotate it. It doesn't feel like it has enough taper to me either, so this is stuff where you can kind of start getting into, you know, what's working with your drawing and what isn't. Now I'm going to go ahead and start coloring. So I'm going to use the lasso tool. I'm going to select around him, which should be pretty easy because the silhouette's pretty simple. If we did our job right, our silhouette should be pretty clear. So we're just going around selecting all this stuff. If you guys have any questions at all, it doesn't have to be about drawing. Again, I'm a 3D character artist that now currently is working in games. So if you guys have questions, shout them out and I'll try to answer anything as best as I can. More than happy to chat. It's what I'm streaming. Also, when we get into this, I'll probably have to change the music to some like fantasy stuff or something, so we can feel the vibe, get into it. I also drew this using a not black, using like a semi-gray, so I can kind of darken this down a little bit, or you can turn it on multiply, just to make sure that you get your darkest darks in there. I'm also going to make sure that his tail doesn't get lost. See, there it is again, scrolling. Chipmunks have these like long, fuzzy little tails, so I just want to keep that in the silhouette and make sure it's there. Go ahead, put that in. And clean up any of the outline that, you know, didn't get it. I stayed pretty good this time. Usually I have to go in and be like, oh man, I gotta adjust all those stupid little edges, but I'm not gonna be super worried about it. Cool. And then I'll use a clipping mask and we can start thinking about colors. Now it's really, usually when I first do this, I think I did this last time, so you'll see a very repetitive process because I have a process. So I'll start with just trying to get color in there on stuff first, and then I can make my adjustments after the fact. Just because color, again, if I, for example, this, right now I could say like, oh, it's too saturated. But the moment I put, you know, like a really saturated red next to it, maybe it'll look a little more desaturated, right? So until you have all the pieces in, you're not going to be able to make a good judgment as to what needs to get done and what doesn't. So right now, I don't think I would want to keep it red because, again, our Fox character's hood's red. But it doesn't matter at the moment. I'm just going to go in and try to block in the values and colors. Just get some sort of color on everything first, and then I can go in and adjust after the fact. You know, if I know this is metal, and I know this is metal, then I can start making some breakup choices. And all this color context also totally changes when, if I put them in a cool environment, all this stuff is going to look much warmer. If I put them in a warm environment, you know, that metal might look even cool, depending on how warm your environment is. So there's tons of stuff like that to just be very mindful of when it comes to creating color. Right now, we're trying to create what would be called the diffuse color, or albedo, which is if no light's on it, what's the true local value of a color. And also, if I do this and I've cleaned up, I try to put my layers on stuff that makes sense. So if the skin, sometimes I'll put the skin on top, but really I should put it on the bottom. Depends on what I do up first. But if I create a really nice, clean, you know, hand like this, for example. I said clean and then I messed up my cleanliness. Erase away. So if I have something like that, then to make the gauntlet, I'll just make sure that it's underneath. So that way I can just do this, and now I don't have to worry about the outlining. And right now I know that this armor is probably going to be too warm for what I want it to be, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'm going to find... And I'll try to pick things that I'm like, I think this would probably be the same color. Because you don't want every color to be a different color, or else then he doesn't really have a lot of harmony. So I'm trying to create some sort of color harmony as well. You can see I missed a spot on my drawing, but that's okay. Go back, adjust it. Is everyone still alive in the chat? I hope so. I wouldn't imagine it'd be a very busy night considering everyone's coming back from the holidays and all that stuff. I'm just gonna throw in a green underneath here. And again, I don't really know yet what colors I'm going to go for. I'm thinking about it as I'm blocking out. He's got like a dark sleeve on this one. Cool. Just gotta add his little tail. And if we feel like he needs more color breakup later, we can definitely add more color. But I try to start with a simple colors first, or not as many. And then when you feel like you need to add complexity, you can. Cool, so now I can go in, now that I have these all separated, I can go in and start making adjustments to the colors. So I'm gonna cool down his colors. And start sliding these across and seeing if there's something interesting. Our other character is green, but he's got red. So trying to find something that maybe he's a bit more neutral. Like he's got a lot of just warm, maybe he's like autumny tones. So maybe we can play with some yellows. Kind of like the idea of finding a yellow. That could be interesting. Again, something that's gonna feel broken up from what our other character is. So I'm gonna go for like, I like saying autumn, so autumn colors. Trying to find where that red is. I don't actually mind the green sleeve either. Maybe we just gotta make his pants now more warmish. Cool. I blanked out. Oh yeah, I blanked out first. I was like, "What am I changing? I don't remember." What? Changing is you know, and maybe later on there's accents of yellow now that we can add to his little cloth thing. Or there's little trims of yellow that we could add. because I kind of like this yellow to be the kind of like the accent color for everything. So that would be really cool. So, going in here and saying, that's an accent color for that. If I go down to here, making this trim, right? And now what I like about this, right, is that the value from the pants to his little loincloth actually don't have to be that great of a value, because now we have this trim that makes it pop out from everything else. Maybe same thing with his belt. He's got little... It doesn't have to be the same kind. Like maybe it's actually just like a silver-plated, goldish type on his belt, right? So maybe it's just hints of metal, but it's not actual yellow. Now we can go to his face, and I can look at start. I actually don't think I mind that as a base as of right now, so we can start kind of highlighting where his underbelly would be. This is why normally I would want all this underneath everything, but that's okay. I'll just erase away. Normally you'd want the skin underneath everything so you can just paint on top without having to worry about it going on top of everything else, but it's fine. I'm gonna take that and we're gonna add maybe a more reddish hue to the top of his head. And down his back, maybe. Again, probably I need to look up my chipmunk reference again to see what colors are happening. These actually go down to like a... These actually go through his eyes and down to his nose, which is pretty cool. So this goes through his eyes, so actually what I'll do is I'm going to change this. So underneath his eyes will be that white. And then through his eyes is going to be the dark. And then the top of their nose is pretty dark. So we can bring in that red again. And maybe make it a bit more pinkish for his nose. They have a slight pink in the little nose. So pretty subtle. We can select this color and make his teeth pretty bright. Whiten his eyeballs. And so now I'm just adding like little, again, it's just little color accents in areas and places. And yeah, so once we're happy with something like that, we can go ahead and add another layer on top and put it to multiply. And then I'll add some shadow, like a shadow pass on it. I'm gonna try to make it cool. I like to work with full opacity first on shadows to really find where those cast shadows are gonna hit. And this might be a little darker than what I'll end up, but that's okay too. Because again, I mean, it's so easy to change and adjust all this stuff in digital. So I'm not super worried about any of it. Trying to figure out where, if the lighting's coming from, I can't really draw within it, coming from that direction, what's going to be in shadow. And what's not. And again, this is more for fun than it is for like a final. You can always work it more and do a lot more on top and whatnot. But I think for what we have, this is fine and fun. And it's, again, like this is a better roadmap than what I would personally need to jump into 3D, especially because it's, again, my own stuff. But it's fun. Yeah, we still got time, so we're doing it. I wonder if this whole side just needs to be in shadow. Usually the rule is, for your painting, when you're doing lighting and shadow, you don't really want, you either want it to be mostly lit or mostly in shadow. So you kind of don't want it to be a 50-50. You want it to be like a 70-30 type of proportion. So for this guy, I'm trying to light him mostly in shadow, I guess now. Just so that way there feels like there's a better balance between the two. When I say balance, I really mean like not 50-50. There's also just tons of cool little overlap and stuff, so it's really easy to, throw cast shadows and stuff onto things. And if you wanted to, you could accentuate, you know, hard and soft shadows if you wanted to, or hard and soft edges. I do think that they add a lot to defining a piece. I mean, really, the secret to rendering or making anything feel realistic is about how you're splitting up your hard and soft edges and making sure that, you know, you have a good balance of where your soft edges are versus where your hard edges are. What creates soft edges versus what creates hard edges. And I would have to look up some more reference for the battle and how I want to shade that. Actually, I'm gonna Google the video of that. You can see adding some softness or like blending these edges actually makes a pretty big difference between what's a cast shadow and what's you know, a soft transition from one form to another. You can kind of render it however, you know, you see fit for that type of stuff. I personally, I kind of render like as if I'm still hatching with like a pen, because that's usually how I sketch and draw. So I like using just this like kind of like chalky little brush, and I don't mind leaving little accents of brush strokes and stuff. So you can see when, if I bring up the layers, it's really small, but if you look at your shadow layer, if it looks like it's making up 70% or more, or it's like a 30-70 balance of either more shadow or more light, then I think it sells a lot better than doing kind of like a 50-50. Your eye won't really know where to go when you do like a 50-50 contrast between light and dark, because they share the same space. So your eye won't know what's wrong, but it looks really off. When you do it. I'm gonna go ahead and darken his pupils, just because I think it'll help. I'm gonna accentuate his eyebrows and his eyelid, just to get more depth in there. And then on top of all of that, I can add like a little highlight. So if you want to, you can also do like a screen layer. And I try not to go crazy with stuff like this, because again, if you put too much contrast on things, then your eye doesn't really know where to look. But for stuff like metal, you know, you might want kind of like a hot spot. But I try to treat this really carefully, because you don't want everything to look shiny. You don't want everything to have the same treatment. I'll probably even like kind of subtly not do it on the feet, so it's not as much contrast. I'd rather have more contrast on his armor. If you want to go into the shadow, you can, just to accentuate that there's maybe like an edge there. That's cool too. But yeah, for stuff like the clothes, I'll do even lower opacity. I'll do something like that maybe. It's really subtle, and then I'll even erase away that. So again, because clothing is diffusive, it's not super shiny. You kind of don't need a whole lot, but you can add like a little bit of bounce light and stuff too with a screen pass. And I'll usually take even what I have now and I'll tone that down later. Add like a little tiny sheen to his fur on the top here. Again, I usually feel like it contradicts the shadow too much, but adding little tiny shines here and there can be helpful to accentuate just certain things. But again, I try not to do it with everything. And even that I'll take and possibly kind of like tone it down even a little bit more. If you want to be more line heavy of a drawing, then you can easily take, like I said, the shadow may be too heavy from the beginning, so we can totally do something like that. And you can bring it back and forth and say, what actually do I like? And if you like your line drawing to stick out a bit more, then playing with like then making it less painterly, then you can totally do that. Another cool trick that I like to do too sometimes is I'll first go in and kind of clean up my line work. So I'll get rid of where, I was kind of like forming out his body, or get rid of, little lines here and there. Just a slight cleanup on stuff. I have an arrow, Doesn't have to be perfect, but I like to clean up this stuff a little more. And then what you can do is you can take this, your line layer, you can duplicate it. You can do a Gaussian blur on it. So you can blur it slightly. And this is too heavy, but I'm blurring it slightly with the Gaussian blur. And then you can lower the opacity on it. And it just kind of sharpens up your, I don't know if you guys can see the difference on streaming or not, but that's without it, that's with it. And it adds I like it because it reminds me of when I used to photocopy or scan. It kind of gives like this Xeroxed pen sketch to me. And I like it a lot. But again, that's more of like a personal preference of stuff. So I just think it adds a little bit more to your sketch. Darken his tail. And what's cool is if you want to change more of this or less of it, like I can select all these layers and liquefy it. I'm not going to. I think it's fine the way it is. But I could also add one more layer on top of here and start adding just slight ambient occlusion to stuff. So I'll make it slightly darker. I have a screen layer. So I'll add just little things like, you know, the inside of the neck for this scarf would be a lot darker. So I'm going to darken that even more. And where it would be dark in the folds and stuff like that, just brings out a little bit more. Again, subtle, but I think it makes little things pop. Add a core shadow to metal. Makes it feel a little more metally. Yeah, I think that's looking okay. Cool. So now I'm going to take all these. I'm going to group it so that way I can turn it on and off. So we can, as we're wrapping up, so I'll show you guys if you guys joined in early or late or whatever it may be. And show you guys what our process was to get to this point. So, you know, we started out here, which we came up with some interesting contrast from our previous archetype, the jokester, and we're trying to still fit it into that same like fantasy steampunky world. And now that we mentioned, you know, steampunk stuff, then maybe we should later on add a bit more steampunk elements to his armor or something like that, right? We maybe strayed a little bit, and that's okay. Or maybe we just didn't incorporate the element enough. But that's totally fine for what we have. So we started with something like that, and then again we took the iteration of our chipmunk armored dude, and we did some more variations on top of that, right? And then we took that into a final finish, which if I just turn off, I guess that dude, you can kind of see it underneath. I don't feel like turning off all the layers. But yeah, we ended up with our little chipmunk character. That I guess will be fighting or doing something with our jokester type character. So again, more brutish, and we can design his sword and stuff later and whatnot. But I think for the stream, I'll continue to probably draw him on top of him, you know, this week, figure out some more stuff, and then we'll take him into 3D next week. So with that, I think I'm pretty much done. So I hope you guys again had a happy holiday. Thanks for joining me on our first time back into the new year. Looking forward to all the other streams and, you know, fleshing out this guy. I think it's gonna be really fun. So I will catch you guys next week. Bye. See you later.